since the Irish won the Camping World Bowl. Big win. I know it wasn't a lot heading into there, but Irish were able to get a big victory against Iowa State. And could have been worse. Could have been playing a team like Alabama and got destroyed like Michigan did. So
absolutely love to see that. And obviously 11-2 season, huge for the Irish. I believe that's 3 years of 10-plus wins in a row now that the Irish have. And next year they'll possibly be starting with a top 10 ranking. Definitely bodes well, and just as a testament to Brian Kelly and what he's been able to do with this program.
Yeah, like you were saying, like we were saying earlier in the last podcast, one thing this bowl game could help us do is build momentum for next year. Definitely going 11-2. I don't see a reason why Notre Dame shouldn't be in the top 10 next year. There's definitely a lot of teams that got a lot of good recruiting, a lot of good programs out there too. But starting the top 10 will be huge because you don't have to worry about working your way down too much later in the year. If you start there and you have one loss or something like that, you'll still be around that area. If you start outside the top 25, it's a lot harder to work your way back in.
Definitely, we know the Irish has a tough, couple games this upcoming year, but we'll get into that a little bit later. For right now, we definitely want to talk about who the offensive coordinator may be going into next season. Tommy Rees looks like he could be the front runner at this point. Did a pretty decent job in the bowl game. And then just to go along with other coordinators.
Offensive line coach, yeah.
Yeah, Notre Dame's old offensive line coach when McGlinchey and Nelson were there is possibly coming back to Notre Dame after being let go by the Bears, so that could be a huge boost for the offensive line for the Irish.
Yeah, definitely agree. And like you said, the only person I've really heard right now is Tommy Rees. I haven't been looking a lot on social media to see other names that are out there, but that's really the only one I've heard. And this year is going to be a huge year for Notre Dame football, what they do in the offseason. So it's Coach Kelly has a lot of decisions to make with different coaches as well as players leaving. So it's going to be a big decision. But the one name that we know right now is Tommy Rees. He had, I'd say, a fairly good game in the bowl game. Just kind of hard because Notre Dame hasn't ran the ball that well all year. So they try to establish the running game. And then you have Claypool, who makes up for a lot of things and plays your call. But there's a lot of field goals left behind, too. And it's just one game sample size. Now, my kind of worry is when Notre Dame plays at Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, can he give us the play calls down the stretch? Or when Notre Dame faces Brett Venables' defense there at Clemson at home, will he be able to out-scheme him? I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if this will be the good decision to start with him right away, but that's the name we have. And like you're saying, Harry Hiestand was at Notre Dame when Nelson and McGlinchey were there, so definitely a great offensive line coach, and if he can come back as offensive line coach in Notre Dame again, that would be great. But there's nothing set in stone. It's just kind of rumors right now.
Gotcha. And then obviously, from one quarterback, Tommy Rees may be calling plays next year, to the current quarterback, Ian Book. Pretty decent season for Book this year. 240 for 399 for a 60% completion percentage. Very solid completion percentage on the year. Just a touch over 3,000 passing yards on the season and 34 passing touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. That's pretty impressive numbers, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, overall, kind of in the middle of the year, he wasn't really playing with a lot of confidence, that Michigan game. And then we were over here watching that Virginia Tech game, I should say, when he led the team. It was 4th down and like 10. He made a good pass and they led him from behind. After that game, he's been on fire. Obviously, Claypool is going to be really on fire down the stretch. He's going to lose him next year. They're going to lose a lot of receivers. But overall, a good quality year. Obviously, it's not up there with like I'm forgetting the LSU quarterback, Joe Burrows, or Justin Herbert maybe, or even their Ohio State's quarterback, or Trevor Lawrence might not be up there just yet. But next year, he's going to have to take that step to be up there with those guys in Heisman consideration if Notre Dame wants to win the national championship next year. But all in all, I mean, those numbers are really good. So
definitely, and then also, the dual threat attack that comes with him, the 112 attempts for 546 yards on the ground for just 0.1 yards per carry, under 5 yards a carry, and 4 rushing touchdowns. That's crazy because that's second on the team in rushing yards, so you don't really think you're going to have the second most rushing touchdowns out of a quarterback. But he, made his presence known in the running game as well. That's going to be a major point of emphasis going into the 2020 season. I think that we've discussed before that using Book in a more of a running attack in big games like Michigan and stuff like that adds an extra dimension to the offense where it's going to be difficult for that team to be able to plan for that.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good on the ground. Anytime in college football, the running quarterbacks are the difference. I mean, look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, if he couldn't run, they would have been screwed against Ohio State or other court situations with quarterbacks running. Even I was watching the Alabama-Michigan game, and Alabama's quarterback was just sitting back there. I'm like, they're definitely not the same offense without Tua, even Tua is healthy. But him being in the running game, almost 5 yards per carry, I'm not sure if that takes in considerations when he gets sacked and stuff like that, so that might lower it down a little bit. But he being a dual-threat quarterback, I mean, everybody was talking about Wimbush, and his yards per carry might even be higher than Wimbush's was. So a dual threat helps, but we don't want to see our quarterback number 2 on the team in rushing yards, I would think. You want to see some, maybe the backup running back. And looking at the rushing stats, some of the guys down below him, like Sebo Flemster and Jafar Armstrong, weren't getting that many yards at all. So next year, the running game, whether it's the backs being elite or it's the offensive line with false starts and getting pushes up front, we definitely need the running game to help out because Claypool is going to be gone next year with commit as well. So
definitely. And then it all comes down to, can Ian Book lead us to winning the big games? This year, obviously, the Georgia game, tough game. The Michigan game was also a tough game. But if the Irish are truly going to be championship contenders, they have to win those big games like that. The 2 big games this upcoming season, playing Wisconsin at Lambeau Field, neutral site, is going to be a super fun game. And then playing Clemson at home, they definitely have to win at least one of those games in order to be considered playoff contenders, I believe.
Definitely. Notre Dame went 11-2 this year, and it still seems like it wasn't where they wanted to be because they lost their 2 biggest games on the year. The ones that everybody wanted to win were Michigan and Georgia, and they lost those 2. I mean, like I said, to get 11 other wins and kept our rivalry trophies for 2 years, but the big games are the ones that everyone across the country remembers. This year it's going to be Wisconsin, neutral site, and then it's going to be Clemson at home. If he can win those games, those are the games Notre Dame needs to win to kind of get over this hump and this narrative along with the playoff games. But those are the 2 ones he needs to win, and he's going to be matching up against Trevor Lawrence, who's not going to go to the NFL because he doesn't have enough playing time in college yet, not old enough. And then Wisconsin, we did see that Jonathan Taylor is going to the NFL, but Wisconsin will just have some other running back who's awesome again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to win the big games. And then kind of getting towards wrapping up on this, will he get drafted? It kind of all depends. We were discussing earlier how he does this next year. I mean, he's kind of in the middle. If he went this year, he may have gotten drafted at some point, but he's going to have a big year next year. And a lot of the big names are leaving, so hopefully he can be up there. It'd be cool to see him in the Heisman talk. Even cooler if Notre Dame can be undefeated for some of these big games. But I think definitely middle, late rounds right now, but he definitely has a chance to move his draft stock up.
And I think definitely if they knock off a team like a Clemson with a Trevor Lawrence or somebody like that, then people may give him a little more spotlight, being like, hey, Ian Book out-dueled Trevor Lawrence in this game, so it might rise his draft stock at that point.
Yep. So let's get down to it. Can Book lead Notre Dame to a national championship? I believe he can, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. Players leaving. We're going to have Claypool leaving, Commit leaving, Fink leaving. We got a lot of talent receiver and running back. Tony Jones is leaving. We got a lot of talent coming in. So that's going to be one of the big keys. The schedule we just touched on earlier, those 2 big games, the neutral site game, along with Notre Dame's playing at like 6 NFL stadiums. They're playing USC in LA. They're playing at Mercedes-Benz. They're playing where the Carolina Panthers play. They're playing at a lot of other locations too where NFL teams play at. Pittsburgh, Heinz Field. So a lot of big games, as well as some coaches are leaving here. So we don't know who's going to be the offensive coordinator for next year like we were talking on. Notre Dame's losing, I believe, their safeties coach. There's a lot of other positions. So a lot of stuff's going on. Ian Book is going to have step up. We're going to take it to a next level next year. So
100% agree. Like you said, I think he can do it. I think they're going to be able to surround him with enough talent. I think those running backs are going to be able to take the next step up this upcoming season. And I think that he can do it. But again, he's going to have to show that by winning either the Clemson game or the Wisconsin game at Lambeau, they need to go undefeated besides one of those 2 games, and they have to win one of those 2 games in order to lead them to that point.
Absolutely. Can't have a repeat of last year. I know it's easy for me to say, but you can't lose the 2 biggest games on your schedule. Thing is, over the last several years, all Notre Dame's biggest games have been on the road, it seems like. I mean, Wisconsin's going to be kind of a neutral site, but I mean, all these games across the country and Ireland, I don't know how many Notre Dame fans are going to be able to make it. It might be a 50-50, 60-40, we won't know. But that Clemson game being at home, there's no excuse it's not on the road like Miami was or Clemson was or Florida State. That's in our own backyard. That's when we need to finally take control. Brian Kelly's been there for about 10 years now. This needs to be the year.
I 100% agree.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully it didn't take too long, and go Irish.
Absolutely, go Irish. Way better. You got a very few ums. You started slowing down a ton. Makes it sound easier.